the money in your pocket is completely worthless. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. The dollar bills in your wallet, the numbers on your bank screen, the digital digits floating in your crypto wallet. None of it has any actual, intrinsic value. You can't eat a dollar bill. You can't build a house out of digital bank numbers. You can't use a cryptocurrency token to stay warm in the winter. So why are we all killing ourselves to get more of it? Why does the entire planet revolve around something that is fundamentally useless? Because money is not a physical object. Money is the greatest psychological magic trick in human history. It is a shared hallucination that we all agreed to participate in. To understand how we ended up hypnotizing the entire world into believing that pieces of paper have value, we have to go back to the very beginning. We have to look at the entire history of money. 10,000 years ago, money didn't exist. If you wanted something, you had to use the barter system. Imagine you are an ancient farmer and you grow incredibly delicious apples. One day, you decide you want a pair of shoes. So, you grab a basket of apples, walk into the village, and find the local cobbler. You offer him your apples in exchange for a pair of leather shoes. This works perfectly, right? Not exactly. What if the cobbler hates apples? What if he already traded for apples yesterday, and what he really wants right now is a new axe? Suddenly, your trade is blocked. You have something of value, but the person you want to trade with doesn't want it. Economists call this the coincidence of wants. For a barter system to work, both people have to want exactly what the other person has at the exact same time. This made early economies incredibly slow and inefficient. If the cobbler wanted an axe, you would have to take your apples to the blacksmith, hope the blacksmith wanted apples, trade the apples for the axe, and then take the axe back to the cobbler to finally get your shoes. Humans quickly realized that this was a terrible way to do business. We needed a middleman. We needed a third object that everyone in the village, no matter what they did for a living, agreed was valuable. This was the birth of commodity money. Instead of trading apples for shoes, humans started using physical objects that had universal utility as a medium of exchange. In early agricultural societies, this was often grain or livestock. A cow is useful to everyone. It provides milk, it can plow fields, and it provides meat. If you wanted those shoes, you didn't have to guess what the cobbler wanted. You just traded a universally accepted commodity, like a sack of barley, for the shoes. The cobbler accepted the barley because he knew that later on, the blacksmith would also accept barley for the axe. We had solved the coincidence of wants. But commodity money had massive problems of its own. You can't easily carry a cow to the market. If you want to buy something small, you can't exactly cut a cow in half to make change. And if your commodity money is grain, it can rot or be eaten by rats. Humans needed a form of money that was portable, divisible, durable, and universally desired. Enter the shiny metals. Around 5,000 years ago, human societies in places like Mesopotamia and Egypt began using precious metals, specifically gold and silver, as money. Gold was the perfect solution to the money problem. It doesn't rust or decay like iron or wheat. It is incredibly malleable, meaning it can be easily melted down and divided into smaller pieces. And most importantly, it was rare. You couldn't just go into your backyard and pick gold off a tree. Because it was rare, pretty, and durable, everyone agreed it had value. Have you ever stopped to wonder why gold became the global standard instead of silver or copper? Let me know in the comments below. It's fascinating how human psychology attached so much power to a soft yellow rock. But gold had one major flaw. Every time you wanted to buy something, you had to weigh the gold and test its purity too. Make sure you weren't getting scammed with lead painted yellow. This was incredibly tedious. To fix this, kings and emperors stepped in. Around 600 BC, in the ancient kingdom of Lydia, which is modern-day Turkey, the government started taking chunks of electrum, a natural mix of gold and silver, stamping them with the face of a lion, and guaranteeing their weight and purity. This was the invention of the coin. Coins revolutionized human trade. You no longer had to bring a scale to the market. If you saw the king's face stamped on the coin, you instantly knew its exact value. Trade exploded across the ancient world. The Roman Empire built its vast, terrifying power on a standardized currency system of silver denarii and gold aurei. But as empires grew, so did the sheer volume of trade. Carrying large amounts of heavy metal coins became dangerous and inconvenient. If you were a merchant traveling across the Silk Road, A chest full of gold coins made you a massive target for bandits. We needed a lighter solution, and the Chinese invented it. During the Tang Dynasty, around the year 800, the Chinese government introduced the world's first paper money. Originally, these were essentially flying cash, promissory notes. Instead of carrying heavy iron coins, a merchant could deposit their coins with a trusted local authority and receive a piece of paper that said, "This paper can be exchanged for 1,000 coins." This was a massive psychological leap for humanity. For the first time in history, the money itself had absolutely no intrinsic value. A piece of paper cannot be melted down into jewelry. It cannot be used as a tool. The only reason the paper had value was because of trust. The merchant trusted that the government or the bank would actually give them the gold or coins when they handed the paper back. This concept, known as representative money, eventually spread to Europe. If you are fascinated by the hidden history of how the world really works, please drop a like on this video. It tells the algorithm you appreciate high-quality educational content, and it helps the channel grow. By the 19th century, most of the major world powers were operating on what was called the gold standard. This meant that every single paper dollar or pound sterling in circulation was backed by a physical piece of gold sitting in a massive bank vault. If you had a $20 bill, you could walk into a bank, hand them the paper, and legally demand $20 worth of physical gold. The paper was just a receipt for the gold. It was a promise. But in the 20th century, that promise was broken. During the massive, devastating conflicts of World War I and World War II, governments realized they had a massive problem. Wars are incredibly expensive. They needed more money to build tanks, planes, and bombs. But under the gold standard, a government could only print as much paper money as they had gold in their vaults. If they wanted to print more money to fund the war, they had to physically go out and dig more gold out of the ground, which was impossible to do quickly. So, governments simply suspended the gold standard. They started printing money that wasn't backed by anything, just so they could pay for the war effort. After the dust settled from World War II, the global economy was in shambles. In 1944, the victorious Allied nations met in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to redesign the global financial system. They agreed to peg all the world's currencies to the United States dollar, and the United States agreed to peg the dollar to gold at a rate of $35 per ounce. For decades, this system brought massive stability to the global economy. But it didn't last. By 1971, the United States was spending massive amounts of money on the Vietnam War and domestic social programs. They were printing more dollars than they had gold to back them up. Foreign nations started getting nervous. They realized the U.S. didn't have enough gold, so they started aggressively turning in their paper dollars and demanding their gold back from the U.S. Treasury. The gold reserves in America were draining rapidly. To stop a total financial collapse, President Richard Nixon went on television and completely severed the link between the dollar and gold. This was the birth of the fiat currency system. The word fiat is Latin for "let it be done." It means money by decree. Since 1971, every single major currency on Earth, the dollar, the euro, the yen, the pound, has been a fiat currency. It is completely unbacked. There is no gold in a vault somewhere that gives your money value. The only reason a $20 bill can buy you lunch is because the government says it has value, and more importantly, because the restaurant owner trusts that it has value. We have completely transitioned into the era of the shared hallucination. If you want to keep exploring the massive illusions that shape our modern society, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We regularly break down complex history so you can understand the world around you. Today, money has evolved even further. We barely even use paper anymore. Over 90% of the money in the modern global economy does not exist in physical form. It isn't paper, and it certainly isn't gold. It is just data. It is electronic numbers sitting on bank servers. When you get paid, your boss doesn't hand you a stack of cash. A computer simply subtracts numbers from your company's account and adds numbers to your account. When you swipe your debit card to buy a coffee, no physical wealth changes hands. It's just a digital ledger updating in real time. Money has become completely abstract. And now, we are entering the next phase, cryptocurrency. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are attempting to create a new form of money that relies entirely on mathematics, cryptography, and decentralized networks, rather than trusting a central government. They are the ultimate expression of money as pure data. From trading cows and apples, to stamping gold coins, to printing paper receipts, to swiping plastic cards, the history of money is the story of human trust. Money is the most successful story ever told. It is the one myth that transcends every religion, every language, and every border on earth. We all believe in it, and because we believe in it, the world keeps turning. Thanks for watching. What part of history should we explore next? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.